Well, hello. Welcome to Real
Hi,
WW Talk. I'm Erin.
and I'm Rikki.
You notice we're missing a voice because Candice would go next, but she is enjoying some rest and some relaxation at home right now. So
Yeah.
it's just the two of us tonight.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! We miss Candice, but she'll be back. She will be
Yes,
back next week.
she will.
So okay, Rikki,
Hmm.
when we last talked, we had said that we were going to do two challenges, and
Hmm.
you gave both of them names.
Yes.
Do you remember what you called them?
Well, so I called it, I think, Share It Saturday.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And I also said Scribble It Sunday. I ended up just doing the Share It, but I Saturday. And I think it might be good to make that like one long stream for the weekend that people can go into on Saturdays, a work in progress. I think people are understanding this weekend. But
So go
yeah.
ahead, tell us to remind people if they're just tuning in for the first
Mhm.
time. Tuning in. Wow, what year am I in radio here? If you're joining us for the first time, we want you to be part of what Share It Saturday is. So
Yes. So in our Facebook page, Real WW Talk on Facebook, we have a lot of different fun things that have developed. So we have Tracker Tuesday, we've done Meal Prep Monday, but we were chatting last week and you guys challenged me because the weekends tend to be consistently a really challenging time for me to eat at home and, even if I'm out to make choices that really fit within my points budget. So you guys challenged me to share my tracker on the weekends since Tracker Tuesday has been really popular. A lot of people, I think, like sharing their things, knowing at the end of the day, I'm going to have to share this with people. So we did that on Saturday too. And it was great to know, like, throughout the day as I was making my choices, that I was going to be sharing it with, all of you guys. So I shared my tracker. A bunch of other people did too. And I think it really helped inform my choices over the weekend.
I realized I did not actually post my tracker, but I had that in mind as I was eating, and I was so
Awesome.
excited because we did another virtual girls' night with Candice. And
Yes.
so Rikki went and got us salads from Chopped. It's
Mhm.
CHOPT if you're not in. I know it's
It's a
kinda,
chain.
yeah, it's a chain.
Yeah,
They don't have any in the Baltimore area, but they're more towards the DC side. And so thank you, Rikki, for being the wheels to get them.
of
Um,
course. This is my joy.
but like I okay, so I have to admit that on this WW journey, I have been solidly against salads. And the reason why
Mm,
I've been against salads is because it feels like such a quote unquote diet food
mhm,
to me. And I'm like, the only way that I'm going to eat a salad is if I actually want it as much as I would want a burger. And this
mhm.
is a salad that I want as much as a burger. They've got some special magic that they sprinkle in with it that makes me so happy.
Mhm.
But I will also say that it was beautiful being able to track and get like 3 points
Yes.
added in because of the veggies. Like it
Mhm.
almost canceled out the salad dressing.
Yeah, it's like, I guess about 3 cups worth of salad that you're getting, so you get, all that lettuce counts towards the extra points, and I think their magic is the ratio, the way they're able to cut up all the ingredients so finely, especially the lettuce, like in the romaine and the kale,
Mhm,
so that it mixes in really well, so you don't just get one bite that's just one giant piece of lettuce.
mhm.
You get a bite that has a little bacon, a little chicken, a little tomato, whatever it is, mixed in, and the dressing's perfectly mixed. So they're onto something.
Yeah, like Candace said the last time, like, we could probably make this at home, but there's something about the way that they do it, and they've got
Mhm.
whatever their knife is that rocks back and forth and
I
cuts
don't know what
everything
it's
up.
called. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you can make your own at home too if you want to and join
Mhm.
us in the
Yeah.
girls' night, our individual girls' night. We'll tell you what we're watching ahead of time so you can
Yes.
do it virtual too.
Just set aside a solid 10 minutes to chop up your food really finely.
So Share It Saturday was awesome
Mhm.
because one of the things that we recognize and that Rikki recognized, and we've had this conversation before, our in-person meeting coach Nadine had pointed out that every weekend that we're off plan, that's 104 days. So that's a third of the WW journey that we're out. And then when you add in whatever the holidays are on top of it, there's what, 20,
Mhm.
25 holidays,
Right.
right? So that's
Mhm.
almost an entire another month that we're off,
Yeah.
and we can see why we have struggled staying on plan. One, just think about everything that you're battling, trying to stay on plan for the weekends. But if we can build that as a habit and
Mhm.
that the weekend doesn't become a free for all. And I think honestly, like I started kind of like asking myself, like, why has that become a thing?
Mhm.
And I think because of quote unquote diet culture, the
Absolutely.
restriction throughout the week, it becomes your cheat meals on the weekend. And so the
Mhm.
entire weekend becomes a cheat. But the whole thing with doing what we're trying to do on WW is there is no cheat food. There is no
Mhm.
bad food.
Yeah.
Food is food, and you simply track it, which
Mhm.
means you can have cake if you want to. Just track it
Mhm.
and you work your points accordingly.
Yeah. And I think with that deprivation, sometimes not only you're depriving yourself, you're telling yourself when you can have that thing again. And it might be that you're saying, okay, I won't have the chocolate at all this week. But you're thinking about it all week because you know you're going to have it on Saturday. And by the time you get there, it's not just one piece of chocolate. It's, a piece of chocolate for every time you thought of it. And I don't know if
Mhm.
everyone can relate to that. But I think that when I've deprived myself in the past, that's kind of the amount it gets to when I finally do give in.
Yeah, actually, I want to camp on that for a little bit and talk about the deprivation
Mhm.
aspect of it because I think that for me has been a big part in the journey. And especially if we go back and listen to the conversations that we had last year, like the
Mhm.
struggle of deprivation when it came to different treats because of being the gluten and dairy intolerant part,
Mhm.
that I would overeat on other things because I was mad because I felt deprived in other
Mhm.
situations where I couldn't eat it. And
Mhm.
it's the stupid thing is because I'm not harming anybody but myself.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like
It is. Yeah, and I think there's a social aspect to it too. Like if I excuse me, if I see other people, eating something and I feel like regardless, I don't know what they've had the rest of the day. I don't know what their metabolism is like. Their food choices affect them, like you said, and my choices affect me. But if I see someone else eating something that I feel like I can't have, sometimes, my mind just ruminates on that. And I'm thinking about it and thinking about it like, why can they have that? Well, they're fit, they're working out, I'm gonna work out, so I can have it too, right? Sometimes things that we don't even think we want or like, it's becomes an obsession almost.
Mhm. Yeah, and then it's like you're thinking about it and you're thinking about it, you're obsessing about it,
Mhm.
and then you get it, and it's like, that's not enough.
No,
It's
because
never enough.
Mhm. I think you've said it before because a lot of times it's what is it that I really want? Do I really want that food that they had? Or it goes back to comparison. Am I thinking about something else? Oh, well, they're healthy. What is it what I want really to be healthy and just to eat what I want and think that, it's odd that our brain works that way sometimes where we think if we do what other people do, we will have the exact same outcome. And it doesn't
Mhm.
always work like that because we're all different and our bodies work differently. Our lives, our patterns of our lives work differently. Just because I finish the same program as someone else doesn't mean I'm going to get the exact same job or, like that's just not how life works.
Mhm. I, earlier, I've been talking about, been under a lot of stress. So much like, to kind of brag a little bit on my boss, like he noticed the whole team having some wear and tear that he told us all on Friday that he
Mhm.
wanted everybody to take the day off on Friday.
Mm.
Which I'm so grateful that he made that decision because I 100% needed it. But when I get super stressed, I realize that my mind starts craving certain foods.
Mm.
And I'm like, why do I want cake so badly? Why do I want burgers and fries so badly? And I was doing some reading that talked about the effect of stress hormones on the body and
Mm.
how it raises the cortisol levels. And the cortisol makes you also crave comfort things.
Mm.
So it's whatever things are that you associate as comfort is like what's hardwired in your brain to go crave. And
Mm.
that was really eye-opening for me because as last week, as I was craving these things, I wanted to be able to give into them, but I had made that commitment of I'm going to track everything and stick within certain points, right? Like all of that stuff. And I thought, is my commitment more than my craving?
Mm. Wow.
And I had to kind of rest in what that commitment was. And then also go, I'm craving this, but that's because this is my body's physical reaction to the stress. This
Mhm,
isn't actually what I want right
mhm,
now. This is what the cortisol wants.
mm,
And so I felt myself, that's like the first time I've done that in a long time. Like I'm kind of warring with myself and my brain going, your commitment is greater than the cortisol. And like having
wow.
to almost counsel myself in my head.
Mhm,
I just wanted to share that because I know somebody's listening who's struggling with all of this stress and like giving in. And I realize that the more that I've learned to say no in the middle of the stress to certain foods, my brain actually craves it less. But this
mhm,
is the first time that it's actually come up. Normally it craves going out and walking because that's when do you remember when WW was um doing the sessions probably 6 months ago? They were talking about creating those new brain pathways, and we talked about the new brain pathways.
mhm.
Like my new brain pathway that I've created during stress is I go for a walk.
That's
And
great.
so it will crave that now. But this
Mhm.
was one of the first times it was like, "No, we're getting in the kitchen."
Well, when you say that, it sounds just like habits too. Like, I think a lot of times when we're stressed, our habit is to give ourselves what we want or to not say no to ourselves.
Mhm,
It's so much easier to do that because then you don't have to think about it anymore. Like, you might think about it in a different way because if you regret it or if you have a stomach ache or whatever it is, you may still be thinking about it and not really realize it. But if you're saying, yes to that thing, it's a habit that you're used to, but you're building a new habit by saying, I'm going to stop, I'm
mhm,
going to think, I'm going to say no and do something else. Like,
mhm,
maybe now I, go get a cup of water instead of going straight to the box of chips or crackers, whatever it is.
mhm. Well, I realized it was something too that I was doing for comfort.
Mhm.
Like, I'm really bothered in this moment and I wanna feel better. And
Yeah.
so what makes me feel better? Going and eating something. That's
Mhm.
just the way I'm hardwired.
Mhm.
But that's not the way to make it feel better. That just temporarily makes the moment better, at least it feels.
Mhm.
But then after that, I'm left holding the bag
Mm.
on whatever I've eaten out of frustration and anger in that moment or in trying to soothe myself. And I realized, that I've replaced that. So I'm not eating to do that, but that doesn't mean that I'm still appropriately dealing with that.
Mm.
And what I've been doing lately has been the doom scroll on Facebook and Instagram, right? I looked at
Mhm.
my time, spent like, I don't know, 3 hours one day. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, when I get up in the morning, I'll spend an hour, and that hour just blows right by." And
Mhm.
then at night before I go to bed, and then those
Mhm.
little moments between the day, like little breaks just to give your mind a break, quote unquote.
Mm.
And I'm like, before I, it's 3 hours.
Mhm.
3 hours. That is crazy.
Wow.
And it adds up that fast, but it's all because I'm just trying to give myself a break, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's not the appropriate way to deal because all I'm doing is deadening my head,
Mhm.
right? I'm not thinking about my emotions, I'm not thinking about any of the thoughts, I'm not doing anything with that, I'm not
Mhm.
journaling it, I'm not getting it out, and all I'm doing is just stuffing it.
Mhm.
Do you st
Yeah.
are
That
I like does that resonate? Like, I didn't realize I
absolutely.
was a stuffer, and I'm a stuffer.
Well, so what I think of when you say that is, for me, like, if there's something in my life that I'm frustrated with or that's stressing me out, let's say it's, I want a new car. Let's go with that. Not a real situation, but just thinking of something. And then I go to Instagram. Like, there's probably going to be something as I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, some picture of someone standing in front of their beautiful new, Mercedes Benz or something. And then what does my mind say? Am I likely to say, "Congrats, oh, that person must be so happy. I'm so happy for them." I'm probably not going to go that direction. I'm probably going to say, "Man, they can afford that. Like, how can they afford that? I bet their mom helped them pay for that, or daddy gave them a credit card, or, oh," like, a lot of times we go to the negative because there's envy there. There's
Mm,
comparison, and we keep scrolling, and there might be a ton of other things, like a new recipe that someone shared, or someone made got a promotion, or like all these other positive things, or things that people aren't even trying to share. Maybe they're standing in front of their car, but they're really telling you that they you know clean their window, or like something completely arbitrary, but we see what's frustrating us or what we want to see, what we're
mhm,
hyper focused on. And in that moment, we're just frustrating ourselves because we're comparing ourselves. Do you relate to that at all when you go through that death scroll or doom scroll?
100%. Yes, 100%. And here's the thing is like I trick myself into I'll see some things that make me happy or messages that I might need to read right then and there, but I've
Mhm.
just spent an hour to get 3 positive things
Mhm.
out of it, right? Like, and the negative emotions that you're talking about, right? It's like, how do we do more things that are life-giving?
Right.
That's not life-giving at
Mhm.
all.
Mm-mm.
So, what is it that we wanna change on that? And, like, gratitude, there's no gratitude in there,
Mm-mm.
right? Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so how do we wanna change that?
Yeah, I think it's hard. It starts with acknowledging, like you acknowledge that you know it was 3 hours. I think a lot of us probably don't even know how much wasted time we've spent. So I think it starts with acknowledging, maybe I need to put that setting back on my phone when they first put that setting that stopped you and warned you when you're on social media. I set it, I think, an hour a day, and I'm like, what? You are already stopping me? Okay, we're taking this off. But maybe I need to put that back on my phone. And I have a pile of books downstairs, just a pile of books that I have the desire to read, but air quotes, don't have the time to read. But I would much rather fill my head with a book that has purpose, either telling me a story or giving me some, life hacks versus scrolling through social media.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I so this week or this past week, um, the lesson from WW what do we call what is it called? The workshop. I feel like I'm in
It's
church saying
yeah,
it, the
yeah.
lesson, right? You can tell what culture I grew up in. But the workshop this week has been about, it's been a hang on one second. Whoops. It's been on, perfectionism.
Mhm.
And so, like, I've had this ringing in my mind too about the things that I've been doing on the WW journey as perfectionism that I haven't necessarily classified as perfectionism, but when I look at it through that light, it's like the all or nothing
Okay.
mentality. So I have somebody in my life who has just joined WW,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit of the all or nothing mentality right now. And
Okay.
so I'm trying to be careful in that I don't want to squelch the personality of a new WW member because they
Mhm.
are like on it,
Mhm.
as opposed to a little bit more free form and relaxed version over here.
Aw.
But there are moments where I'm catching this person with and they're constantly asking me for help on the program and different things, and
Mhm.
I'm watching them shortchange themselves out of joy and food,
Hmm.
and they've got plenty of points to spare kind of a thing, and
Right.
we had, like, a little bit of a bump up because it was I just said, Listen, the issue right now, when we gain weight is not because of what we are or aren't tracking in terms of vegetables and
Mhm.
pickles and that kind of stuff. It is
Right.
the snacks, the cakes, it is all of those extra things that we consume. That's why we
Mhm.
can't lose weight.
Mhm.
Those are the pieces. So don't obsess over eating 5 points for ground beef
Right.
if we're not obsessed about 25 points for cake. Like we gotta reverse this just a little bit, or
Mhm.
choosing the 1 point slice of cheese over the 4 point slice of cheese,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
but here I am though, saying this, but my own levels of perfectionism on other things need
Uh-huh.
addressing.
Yeah, and maybe, I think there's definitely I think perfectionism is not the way to go, but at the same time, it's like there has to be a happy medium because after you do this for so long and so many years, you think you know everything.
Yep.
And so you can, "Oh, I know that points for that," or, "I know if I have a bite of this or a bite liquor taste," one of those BLTs, if I have those things, even though we've had meetings about, like, just meeting topics about bites, licks, and taste, but yet I still am grabbing one bite here, a lick here, a taste here, and not tracking it and thinking, like, "That's insanity. I'm
Mhm,
doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result."
mhm.
So, yeah.
Where do you think, as we've talked about consistency and habits and developing those, where do you see areas of perfectionism, or do you see any areas of perfectionism that can climb into consistency and habits?
That's a good question. I think with when I have been super, super focused, a lot of times I can get very focused on, the numbers on my Apple Watch or things like that. And I think that can be used to my advantage in a way. Like, no, I don't have to work out every single day or do a 30-minute or 45 or an hour long workout every day, but I can use to my advantage that I'm working towards a goal or I'm working towards a certain number of activity minutes for a week versus saying I have to have,
Mhm.
this perfect number or this certain amount of workouts every day. So I think that can work in my advantage in some way to say,
Mhm.
I can have exercise goals, but it doesn't have to be, if I miss a workout or if I change the time of day I'm doing my workout, then I just stop doing it altogether.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about, like, the consistency and the habits, because I've been, like, hyper focused on that, and I
Mhm.
realized that, I don't like things that do streaks,
Okay.
because I realized that I feel like if I break the streak or what have you, I feel like a failure. To
Mhm.
me, that's a really hard level of perfectionism, or if I forget to check the app one day, but even though I've already done the work for it, I just
Mhm.
didn't log it at that moment, that it's
Mhm.
over, and that's I would just say that's a level of perfectionism that I don't like within the WW app, although I know for
Mhm.
some people the streaks are super motivating.
Mhm.
They're not motivating for me because they trip me up in
Yeah.
that way. Um, so I've had to focus more, especially when I've talked about, like, consistency for myself, that walking for 10 minutes is
Mhm.
okay if I
Yeah.
can't do 30 minutes, or, my outside walk that I prefer.
Mhm.
I didn't lift weights today, that's okay. I did XYZ instead
Mhm.
of doing that. I think that's the piece where I'm starting to work on the perfectionism with myself, because, not to bring him up again, but I feel like I'm just gonna say his name, James Clear and Atomic Habits.
Our new best bud.
Our new best buds. Sorry, Jordan Syatt, you've been ousted temporarily until you write a book, and then we'll have it. Syatt Fitness on Instagram. Um, he talks about within the book about the consistency of habits is not perfectionism.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
doing that 1% more each day, and
Yeah.
how that habit is built in. So I think I'm
Mhm.
trying to work more on building the habit portion and being okay with that 1% more. And he used an example in the book that has so resonated with me, that in order for someone to become president, they just have to carry the majority of the vote. They don't have to carry
Yeah.
all the vote. And I've, like, always been an all or nothing person. I'm like, I just need the majority of it.
Mhm.
Whatever I'm trying to do, the
Yeah.
majority of whatever I'm trying to do. Like, release yourself of it having to be 100% all the way.
I had to release that with the Peloton app because similar to the blue streaks in WW in the app, in Peloton, you can get a blue streak for doing a workout every day. And I had a period of I can't remember how, I should know, but I had a very long streak. I wanna say it was over a month. But the issue with streaks is you can manipulate things, and I think when you get to a point of manipulating things, you're missing the point, because you're not necessarily focused on doing things that help you get towards your goal. Just like James Clear would probably say, if I'm building habits, they're getting me to my goal. So, for example, I would I would just turn on a meditation. I am not necessarily a meditation person. I don't think there's not value in it, or I think there is value in it. But for me, I don't necessarily like to listen to a meditation about, I'm better at this or I can do better. Like it's there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not me right
Mhm.
now. But I would turn on a meditation and like half listen to it just because I knew it would get me a blue dot on a day that I didn't do any other Peloton workout. So for me, that wasn't representative of a true streak. Like, let's say someone has value in meditation, or that really helps them to sleep, or whatever it is, and they did that, and that's all they did in one day. That might be meaningful for them. But if I'm sitting there like half scrolling on my phone and listening to a meditation just to get a blue dot, I'm missing the point of the blue dot.
Mhm. Mhm. You're also assuming that they weren't doing the same thing.
You're right. I mean, I think there are people who probably do it too, but for me, if it's not getting me towards my fitness goals and I'm so focused on that, what if I start doing that 5 days a week instead of working out and I'm only working out 2 days a week versus I'd rather see, 4 or so days during the week of blue dots and know that they
Mhm.
came from workouts that I did that broke a sweat or that built up my strength.
Mhm. No, I appreciate what you just said there about manipulating it.
Mhm.
That sometimes we can get into the space where we're manipulating the data. So, like, I realized that, I was manipulating the data within the WW app in that I was tracking breakfast every morning,
Mhm.
which is not a problem. It's good to track breakfast every morning. I eat the same breakfast every day. And so while I was giving myself a pat on the back because at least I was tracking breakfast every day,
Mhm.
I could have been doing better. Like,
Mm.
I was giving myself a free pass because I felt like I was still doing something. And it wasn't until I had, like, an honest conversation with myself that tracking breakfast is not the problem.
Mm.
And I think what it was the accountability portion is that I didn't wanna be accountable to myself for myself.
Mm.
And I needed to have that hard conversation of dinner's actually the problem.
Yeah.
You need to change how you track dinner, and you need to change what you're having for dinner,
Mhm.
and you need to change your snacks.
Yeah.
Because that's your problem. Eating eggs, avocado, and grape tomatoes is not the problem here.
Mhm.
To the point of, like, the conversation I was having with the loved one that was like, "This is not the problem.
Uh-huh.
The problem is X, Y, and Z." So it's like, what is it? What's the thing? Like a finger pointing back at you.
Uh-huh. So that brings up to me though, and I don't know that I fully understand exactly how this worked, but some people would start their day tracking with dinner.
Mhm.
And then they would go how exactly did that work that they could use their points starting with dinner and then could roll over? Were points different then, or do you remember how that worked? Because there was a way that you could start your day with tracking dinner and then you'd have the points in the morning. Or
I
I
mean,
do you know how
I figured they just doing, like,
like
math like you could
backward?
do right now, like, "Okay, well, I know that this is what I'm having for dinner, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
put it in here so I know that I have, 10 points to use for the rest of the day," or,
Mhm.
figuring that out.
Yeah, and then tracking your breakfast later. Um, or just tracking your breakfast knowing what you already had for dinner. I mean, that's helpful, but the
Mhm.
problem is if you don't follow through with that. And that's the challenge. But I think that might be a good plan for people like me or like you who sometimes find that okay, like breakfast is not the problem for me. It's the end of the day when I have fewer points and, I think I probably should start doing that, like, not only figure out what I'm gonna have for dinner, but put it in so when I'm taking out my points for breakfast, when I'm eating breakfast, I already have taken out my points for dinner.
Mhm. See, where that wouldn't work for me would
Mhm,
be I would feel pigeonholed for dinner because the person that I'm in the morning and, my hopes and dreams that I have in the morning of who I'll be for that person at dinner time
mhm.
often don't align,
Yeah.
and I'd rather give myself the freedom to be able to make that choice later because I don't wanna be resentful at dinner time that I'm eating something that I don't really want, but I'm choosing to do it because it
Mhm.
was in the tracker, you
But do you
know?
think you could also give yourself the flexibility of saying, "Well, I don't have to have this, but the 20 points are set aside, like, or 15 points are set aside. I can change it, but it has to be something within those points."
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I try throughout the week especially to, um, to keep my points for each meal around 10 points, or
Mhm,
each meal, I should say, for lunch and for dinner. I
mhm,
try to keep them each around 10, and
mhm.
then that way I've got a little bit of flexibility for, like, a snack later,
Yeah,
and breakfast is, like, always a 0.
that's good.
And, I mean, I've been trying more to utilize the 0 point foods that I have, especially now that I went back and got rid of the salmon as my, or, the fish stuff as one of my freebies because I just haven't been
Mhm.
eating it. But I will tell you, I did make WW has it's called the basic turkey burger.
Mhm.
recipe in the app, and I made it,
Okay.
and I didn't have a lot of faith in it, I'm not gonna lie, because it was very wet, very wet.
That does not sound appetizing.
It doesn't, but I will tell you it was delicious.
Interesting.
And I have not been good about planning my lunches, and so I actually got some of my gluten-free bread.
Okay.
It's 4 points for this roll. It's, Odo's for anybody who is gluten-free, Odoughs, Odo's, and
Mhm.
it's 4 points for the multigrain flatbread, and the turkey burger is 0,
Wow.
and I had it for lunch today. I actually used light mayo, which you know how I feel about light mayo, but it was like, this is one that I wanted to
Mhm.
skirt some points on so that I could then have some chips with it, and I had
Mhm.
some vacation carrots, even though I'm not going on vacation, but it's my state of mind right now,
Nice.
and so I had an 8-point lunch, or 9 points, sorry, it was 9 points, and I was super happy with it, super
Sounds
happy.
great.
So that kept me within my 10, and then I had
Mhm.
my others for later, and then
Mhm.
3 points was my oat milk latte for today, and I went over, or I'm planning to go over, I should say, because 'cause I'm eating one of my gluten-free Oreo cookies, but I'm earning those extra points for the day by the vegetables that I ate, the
Mhm.
water that I drank, and then I've got, 4 points for exercise, so
There you go.
I'm
It
still
sounds
within the
good.
zone.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been really planning it out, and I mean, I think that's what makes the plan so unique when you can have a lunch like that where it doesn't sound like a diet. Like it's not a diet change. You're having what you want. You just might alter a few things, have a different recipe, have a light mayonnaise so you can have chips. You're making those exceptions so you're not feeling deprived.
Mhm. I think that's the biggest thing for me on the journey, and for, if someone's listening and they're brand new, is like, I refuse to make this a diet,
Mhm.
because the reality is I cannot make this, as an acceptable lifestyle for myself
Mhm.
if I feel like I'm constantly in a diet mode.
Yeah.
I just I know that this is life for me. There's no way that's gonna happen. That's
Mhm.
why that's why I refuse to eat salads, because that feels like diet food to me, unless
Uh-huh.
it's a salad that I feel like I will want as much as a burger.
And
That's my
enter
philosophy.
Chopped.
Yes.
That's
Enter
where Chopped
Chopped.
comes along.
All right, so, goals for this coming week.
Yeah.
Do you have any goals in mind?
So you and I were chatting a little bit beforehand, and I think habits, it's like we're beating a dead horse here with the habits, but James Clear is on to something. So I really want to focus on one habit that I'm going to really build up, and it's something for my health and to help with weight loss, and that's eating more vegetables. So my goal is to have one vegetable a day, 6 days out of 7 of the week. And that can be in a smoothie. I'm not going to be, stringent about the form. It doesn't have to be broccoli or asparagus every day, but a non-starchy vegetable every day in whatever format that is. So,
Listen, you're
yeah,
never gonna achieve your goals if broccoli or asparagus is your vegetable each day.
no, and you know what? That's been my challenge is because it's like you tell yourself you like something. I like broccoli. I genuinely like broccoli. But that's because I'm a picky eater. It's in my fridge and then I'm like, "Oh gosh, I have to have broccoli again." I don't. I don't have to have broccoli again. Yes, I like it, but no one intended broccoli to be eaten every single day. So, mixing it up I think is going to be key for me. So I do have some vacation carrots myself. I have broccoli. I have some Brussels sprouts in the freezer. Frozen veggies are key for me. I have frozen spinach to add to smoothies. I think having things that I know aren't going to die in the bottom drawer of my fridge is really key because
Mhm.
that's the hardest thing about veggies. I think is when they're fresh and when you're picky, they go in the fridge to die.
Well, like, having the vegetables doesn't mean you have to have the vegetables on the side of the plate.
Right.
Like, the vegetables could be in the form of a soup.
Hmm.
They could be
And
covered
eggs.
with eggs.
Hmm.
They could be covered in cheese.
Yes. Yes.
You could make WW has, an Alfredo sauce.
Hmm.
That cauliflower is the base,
Ooh.
So you could make that would get you a vegetable
Mhm.
plus something happy with pasta. It's got Parmesan in it.
Uh-huh. I feel like you're talking to a 3-year-old now. It's like, "Oh, there's nothing in it. It's just Alfredo sauce. It's easy. Eat it." Like,
Not a vegetable at all. Open
"No
up.
veggies in it. You can do it." Cheese on your broccoli. This is reverting to
Right.
my dinner table when I was 5 and my mom put, Velveeta on top of my broccoli to get me to eat it, but that's okay.
Hey, but cream spin I guess what I'm just trying to say is
Mhm,
if you start to get logged into, I have to have a plate of broccoli on the side of this dish,
mhm.
there are plenty of other ways to be able to get that serving of vegetable in that could be a little bit more delicious.
Yes, I agree. Those are great
Because
tips.
again, lifestyle, I can't live that way, but
Mhm.
that's me projecting onto you. You might be able to live that way, not me.
No, no. I need to have I mean, and, there's so many things out there you can buy prepackaged. I know I'm a Trader Joe's should pay me at this point because I'm just constantly like, "Go to Trader Joe's. You haven't been to Trader Joe's? Go." But, like, they have this, Brussels sprout mix that has a sauce already in it. It's like a Parmesan sauce. It's, not overly cheesy. It's just kind of a drizzle of Parmesan, but it's got great flavor and, I mean, there's so many things you can buy that are already kinda done up for you that make it so much easier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck on that.
Thank
I'll
you. What
check in
about
with you.
you? Yeah.
My goal this week is to continue to track, to keep on the tracking and being consistent with the tracking.
Okay.
I find that it's a big anchor for me, especially in the stress. And
Mhm.
so I can't, what are the things that I can control right now?
Yeah.
And that being accountable to the tracking also means I'm being accountable to the things that I'm eating because I got to put them in the tracker.
Mhm.
So that's still gonna be key for me, and then, can I feel like I've got the walking down. I actually don't f I feel like that's already its own habit that I don't wanna break.
Yeah.
So, I'm saying that, but if I'm honest, that's not really a win for me, right? I
Okay.
think where it would be is, like, if I suddenly gave up the walking, but I like that too
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
Truthfully, the bigger stretch, if I'm honest, would be getting water in.
Okay.
Today I've had, like, 2 cups of water, and I've
Mhm.
have
How was
tea
your
that I
plant nanny?
so I haven't done the plant nanny, so maybe I need
Okay.
to do plant one. All I can say is come Wednesday, it's Water Wednesday again, and so I did really well on Water Wednesday last week, and then I've
Good.
slowly just kind of
Mhm. I Same with me. I've been pretty good about going back into the app, but I yesterday did not drink a lot of water. My plant was like wilting and I was like, "No, I promise I'll do better today."
Poor Candice, I wonder what little Candy looks like. She's
Give
got the
Candy
X's
some
across the eyes.
water.
Oh my. Well, we wish you well. We'd love to hear what your goals are for the coming week. We'd love for you to join us on Water Wednesday. We're getting the 60 ounces of water in, which I'm going to do this Wednesday,
Yeah.
and our Share It Saturday to help us keep on track over the weekend. So you're certainly welcome to join us in the Facebook group and post for accountability there. It's Real WW Talk. Just search Facebook for that, as well as Instagram, YouTube, and the podcast. You can pop us in your
Mhm.
pocket and take us with you if you're on the go, you want to go out and do a walk. I will actually often go back and listen to some of our previous episodes to either check in like and remind myself like you keep saying you're going to do this and you haven't done it so you need to get to getting
Mhm.
or listen to something like we had one of our real WW Talk community members say, I hope you guys have gone back and listened to you from a year ago because I can hear your growth. And it's like, oh, thank you. It's so
So
beautiful.
sweet.
But we'd love to connect with you on all those platforms. You can just search Real WW Talk to find us.
Yeah.
That's it for us. And we'll see you next week with Candace along with
Yes.
us. Bye.
Bye.